Keith's a baddie. We all know Keith's the baddie, right? Like he is amazing. I bonded with him the first moment I met him. He has the best hat collection. Don't tell my boyfriend I said that. He is just full of energy. He's super humble. He's an amazing leader who all of his team just absolutely adores him. He makes sure he leads from the back and not just from the front. He's always cheering everybody on. He's a double diamond. He is incredible, and he is today's AM Power speaker, Mr. Keith Williams Sr. Give it up for him. Give him some love in the chat, everybody.
Man. Hey, Adrian, we're going to have to take that show on the road, man. We got to take that. I got to take you to every city that I go to if that's the way you're going to introduce me. And I promise you, the Cash App is on the way, guys. Don't believe nothing. She said I paid her for those endorsements, right? Edification. But no, all jokes aside, man, you have definitely blessed my life since you've been a part of this company. Man, can't wait to rock the stage with you in Dallas and also Atlanta. And when I first heard you speaking to your AM Power Zoom, I was totally blown away, totally impressed. But man, some exciting stuff. And so we're gonna make sure all the lines are muted, guys, as we get ready to get started. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've been on here, right? And I miss you guys. I hope that you miss me too. I see my birthday twin, Eric Eve, on here. Both our birthdays is Friday, right? And so excited about that. The big 5-0 is coming. So Eric Eve, I'm still big bro, right? You know what I'm saying? Even though he has the bigger bank account right now. He's, you know what I'm saying? He's right, definitely. But man, but I'm excited, guys, to be sharing with you all this morning. Excited to see your faces again. These AM power calls, I tell you, are amazing. The lineup this week is crazy. Man, people that have been coming on, Eric Carter, right? All the Erics, right? I was gonna change my name to Eric Williams Sr. Uh, because I was like, man, how do I come behind and in front of all these amazing Erics, right? Can't wait to hear you, Eric Eve, on your birthday. Do the AM Power. I'm glad you took that day, so I don't have to do it. But man, I'm just truly excited, guys. Truly humbled to be here, to be a part of this amazing company. And I didn't know. I was like, what I'm gonna talk about this morning? There's been so many amazing speakers giving so much information. And I tell people all the time when I'm doing the presentation, and we're talking about the membership that's $29.99. And we talk about the list of benefits that you get, right? You get 50% off the products, you get access to our AI technology, you get access to your to a back office. You have a link that you can share with individuals. I mean, you can even participate in our awards program for $29.99 annually. But at the last thing on there, when it's talking about the benefits, it says you have access to our community, our leadership, right? Our mentorship. Guys, that there right there, right, is worth the price of admission. I mean, to get the tutelage and the coaching and the development and the mentorship every single morning, right? It doesn't matter who's speaking. If I'm able to, which most time I am, I jump on because you just never know, right? You just never know what's going to be said. You never know what information, right? So it doesn't really matter to me the speaking style, right? It doesn't matter to me if the information is more personal on developing within, or it doesn't matter if it's business related. It doesn't matter what information is being given. What can I catch, right? What seed? And that's what we're going to talk about this morning. We're going to talk about the seeds, right? What seed can be planted? Because I tell you guys, I've been to events, and I've been to trainings and mentorship programs, and I've been in those spaces, in those rooms, in those environments. And some of the things that was said, some of the things I put in my notebook.
Right, you're gonna eat
Gotta
your
put this, hold on 1 second, guys. Let me take
breakfast.
care of this right here. And give me 1 second so we won't have that. Participants. Boom. There we go. That won't happen again. Got it. And so you just never know, right? Years later, when I would go into my notes, right? Years later, when I would listen to my recordings, sometimes months later, sometimes weeks later, and that statement, that information would be relevant at that time in my life, right? And that information would take my business to the next level. That information, from a personal growth standpoint, will allow me to handle situations that, back then I didn't know how to handle them. But going through my notes and going through the trainings and going through the things that I learned in the mentorship over the years, right? You just never know when you're going to need those things. And so you have to take the opportunity to be present, right? I have people that I communicate with, and they have visions of grandeur, right? Crazy, audacious goals, things they want to accomplish, and and they run down a list of the things they're going to do. And then when I look at the AM power call and I'm looking at the people in attendance, I don't see their name, right? And then I discount everything that was said prior. Why? Because leaders are present, doers are present, right? Warren Buffett says that he never misses an opportunity to look at an opportunity, whether he's interested or not, right? And not opportunity in a sense of somebody showing him a business opportunity, but the opportunity to get information, right? The opportunity to look at something because you never know what you're going to get. It's a lesson in everything, guys. And but sometimes we have to be patient in the process, right? We have to be patient in the process, understand it's a process, and understand that we are in, I've said it before, we're in the people business, right? We're in the people business. This is not a brick and mortar business, right? This is not a business of employers and employees. This is a business of leadership, right? This is a business on understanding how to move people to action, right? How to motivate people, how to inspire people, how to coach people, how to train people, how to lead people, right? But it all starts with yourself. It all starts with yourself, right? How can you lead people when you're not taking the opportunity to be coached and developed? How can you lead people when you're missing the opportunity to be poured into, right? To have a seed that's being planted inside you. The first seed that has to be planted is the one inside you, right? It's not the ones that we plant because as a leader, as understanding the business that I'm in and understanding that when I show up as a professional because I am a professional network marketer, right? And professionals show up. Professionals learn the business. Professionals take the opportunity, right? There's people right now that are professional network marketers that make millions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of dollars that have invested tens of thousands of dollars to get some of the information that is so freely given on a daily basis over here. And then we missed the opportunity to show up. We missed the opportunity to show up. That information, that seed that's planted, that right, that starts to fester and grow and blossom inside you. And then one day you realize, man, I can deliver that information now, right? I can recite that information and pour that information back into other people because that's what leaders do. Leaders put themselves in positions to gather information, right? So they can learn that information, so they can apply that information, but most importantly, teach that information and show other people how to duplicate that information. That's what we do as leaders, guys. And so, but we have to be patient in the process when dealing with people, right? Yes or yes. We have to be patient because people go through things on a daily basis, right? Individuals come with all sorts of baggage. And I'm not saying that in a negative way, but it's just the truth, right? It's just the truth. Sometimes my truth is very transparent. Sometimes my truth is hard to digest, but I promise you the truth to set you free. And so when I tell it, I tell the truth, right? Not to hurt feelings, not to discourage, not to disappoint, but to set people free. Because I wish somebody would tell me the truth. I wish somebody would tell me and say, "Hey, man, I love you, but hey, if you're not showing up on AM power calls, then stop texting me your goals because you're not serious, right? Because if you're not willing to take the time to get the information to invest in yourself to become a leader so you can lead others, then it's just all talk. It's just all talk. And somebody has to tell you that. I love the truth. Mentorship is if you want to mentor guys, a mentor is not somebody just that you could talk to so you can get along with, so they can say things that make you feel good in the inside and give you the warm and fuzzies. No, a mentor is somebody who's going to tell you the truth. A mentor is somebody who's going to tell you, no, you're not hitting that goal if you don't do this and apply this and listen to this. You're not going to lead people because you can't lead yourself, right? Because you're not patient enough to sit through a Zoom to listen to 30 minutes to 45 minutes, sometimes an hour to get that one piece of information that could put you in a different position to win, right? Mentorship is transparent, right? Mentorship is uncomfortable. But mentorship also puts you in a place to receive the information that you need to grow as a person, right? And so before we can lead others, we have to lead ourselves, right? So that was just the prelude, right? As I get ready to share these slides. But I do want to talk about this morning. I've shared this before, but we have new people that haven't heard this training, right? We have people that maybe heard it one time and don't remember it. We have people that might not have went to the recording to listen to this training. But this morning, I want to talk about the seed, right, and the sower, guys, because it's very important because we're in, everything happens in seasons, right? Everything happens in season. And it's a season of sowing and it's a season of reaping, right? It's a season of sowing and a season of reaping. I mean, when you look at Eric Eve, he's the perfect example of sowing and reaping, right? A gentleman that he talked to 20 months ago, 20 months ago, right? Changed the landscape of his business. And all of a sudden, you think, oh man, he's lucky, right? You think that, man, he's just winning all of a sudden. But if you listen to his story, right, if you come to Dallas, you're going to get a chance to hear that story. And it's an amazing story. And I thank him for that story, right? Because stories make money. And I'm sure making a lot off of his story. So I appreciate the story, right? And he'll tell you that, those seeds was planted, right? And I don't want to steal his thunder, but just to think a few months ago, he was barely hitting sapphire, right? Barely hitting sapphire. And he'll tell it, right? But you know what I'm saying? Because he's winning right now because of the seeds that he planted. And then all of a sudden I talked to him and it's the sixth day of the month, and he's already at diamond, right? Right? Because of the seeds that he planted months ago, years ago, right? He was over here for 6 months before I picked up the phone. And people said, well, Eric didn't recruit you, right? You picked up the phone and you called him about another opportunity. He told you about vital health and then you got involved in business. No, that's not true. It's the seed. It's that relationship that he cultivated and developed years prior to that phone call. Because of this, the relationship wasn't there and it wasn't cultivated. If he just didn't call me and I always remember my birthday and say, hey man, I got, some people that want to get their taxes done. Let me send them your way. And he was cultivating a relationship and just checking on me and checking on my family and having those, how's your son, man? How's he doing? I remember when you told me this and that he was planning. So when I was looking for an opportunity to transfer the team to the transition, I picked up the phone and called him. He was the first person I called. Why? Because his relationship was genuine. He planted that seed, right? And it was just harvest time. When I called Eric Eve, it was harvest time. And he was reaping his harvest, right? And so, right, it says in the scripture, guys, that the harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. The labors are few. The harvest is there. It's for anybody that wants to reap it, but you can't reap what you have not sown, right? So let's get into it, man. Seven slides is real quick. We're about to get into it, but hey, when we talk about the seed and the sower, right? Training on control, guys, timing, and the principles of reaping and sowing is what I want to talk about today. So let's talk about the principle of the sower, right? And so you're the sower. You are not the soil or the sun, right? You're not the soil or the sun. And what I mean by that, sometimes we want to dictate how things should grow, right? But you don't dictate how things should grow. The soil dictates how things should grow, right? And a lot of times we want to be the sun. We want to shine on everything and let people know how much we know and how much we've done and who we are, right? Ego, 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 ego. But that's not your job. Your job is to plant and water. Your job is to plant and water. See, when Eric planted those seeds, right? He followed up. And a lot of times it wasn't about the business. I can't tell you how many times we talked and he didn't even tell me about the business that he was in. He just reached out to have a conversation. But guess what he was doing? He was watering the seed that he planted, right? He was watering the seed that he planted. And a lot of times we get impatient in the process and we want to plant the seed. We want to control it. But the planter understands that he doesn't control the plant. The only thing that the planter controls is the planter, right? The only thing you can control is how soon you plant the next seed, right? You don't know any farmer that when he's in the planting season that he plants those seeds and then he just stands over those seeds and watch those seeds grow. Doesn't happen like that, right? Doesn't happen like that. What is the planter worried about? He's worried about planting the next seed, right? Because he understands that if he plants the seeds, the harvest is going to come. See, Jim Rohn talked about it. He talked about some of your seeds, how they're going to fall. He said some are going to fall on thorny ground. Some are going to get choked up by the weeds. He said the birds are going to eat some of the seeds. We have no control over those things, right? Only thing we have control over is the seed, right? Is us, ourselves as the planner. And so you got to focus your attention, focus on your actions, right? Your effort and consistency. That's what the planter focuses on. He focuses on the actions, what he can do, right? What can I do? I can plant another seed, right? What I can do, I can cultivate those seeds. I can water, I can nurture those seeds, right? But I'm not responsible for what happens to the seed. If that seed doesn't grow, it doesn't blossom, it doesn't turn into something that I wanted to turn into, that I don't get fixated and focused on that, because what happens, then I get emotional. I get emotional, right? And guys, this business is not about emotions. It's about effort and about consistency. And every action you take is a seed, right? Every action you take is a seed. Every time you get on the AM power call, that's a seed. Every time you have a conversation with an individual, that's a seed, right? And so every action you take is a seed. The efforts that you put in, right? The conversations that you have, the investments that you put into your business, coming to a convention, right? That's a seed. That's a seed. My first convention that I went to, I remember it. It was in 2001. I remember my first convention in Oklahoma, right? I remember that convention. I remember 3,000 plus people in the room. I remember how it made me feel, right? I remember some of the things that the speaker said on stage. I have boxes full of notebooks from the notes I took. But do you know that when I got in that business and I went to my first convention, I still hadn't recruited anybody yet? And when I got in the industry, it took me a year and a half to recruit my first person, right? But at that time, the seeds that were being planted were being the seeds that were being planted were the seeds that were being planted in me, because I was taking the time to learn the business. I was taking the time to develop my craft. I was taking the time to be a professional because this industry gave me hope. And I know what I was doing prior to the industry is not what I wanted to be doing the rest of my life. I didn't want to be a correctional officer for years. I seen, right, people that were on their way to retirement that had been with that company for 25 and 30 plus years. Right. And I didn't want that to be my story. I didn't want to be going to my part-time job making milk jugs at night for Borden's Milk. I didn't want to do those things. And so even though that the harvest wasn't there yet, even though I wasn't the person that people would listen to, I wasn't the person that people wanted to follow. I wasn't even the person to lead, because I understood that I couldn't even lead myself. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was still making the investments in myself. I was still showing up. I was still committed to the process. I was still willing to learn. I was still willing to find the mentorship. I was still willing to never miss events, because that's what my mentor said. He said, never miss an event that you qualify for, right? He also said, operate in abundance and not scarcity. He say all the time, it's 8 billion people in this world. It only takes a few to make you wealthy. And if you stick around and learn the process, right, and make those investments in yourself, then the harvest is going to come. 4 years later, the harvest started to show up. I was off the part-time job. 7 years into being into this industry, I was off the full-time job, right? 10 years into this industry, I started making 6 figures. 15 years in this industry, I was a 7 figure earner. But what if I would have judged myself in that first year and a half of being in the industry? What if I had showed up to a second and third and fourth convention and said, man, you know what? This isn't working. I keep spending this money. I keep traveling. I keep staying in these hotel rooms with 5 and 6 people, sleeping in bathtubs, getting in early, holding the place in line, sneaking into events. Right? This is not worth it. I should have stayed on those 2 jobs. At least then I was getting a stable paycheck. Right? I started to and I would have started to shrink my ambitions. And I would have stopped thinking from a place of abundance and shrunk back down to scarcity and be like, I'm okay. And that's what we do a lot of times, right? A lot of times we know that the house or the place that we live in is not where we desire to stay. And we know we have the dream homes and we know that we have the homes that we want in other countries. And we visit other cities and countries. Man, I would like to live here, right? I would like to drive that car. I would like to send my kid to that college. I would like to take a vacation to that place, but we shrink our goals and our dreams to fit our current circumstances because we're not willing to make the investments in ourselves to grow and we get impatient in the process. When that person says no, right? We get emotional. When that person quits the business, we get emotional. When that person rejects our leadership, we get emotional, right? And we judge our situation and we judge our current position where we're at right now based on things that happen and we lose focus on the abundance and why we got here and we stop planting those seeds, right? And the sacrifices. I know that a lot of you that are coming to Vital Fest in October in Orlando, I know the sacrifice, right? I know the sacrifice of purchasing the plane ticket. I know the sacrifice of taking time away from your family. I know the sacrifice of having to pay for the room, right? The sacrifice of, man, now I got a budget for meals every day. I got a budget for a rental car. I got to do all these things. And then a lot of times we do that. We come back and we don't see the harvest. It's not harvest season. It's not harvest season. It's still time for you to plant, right? But if you have inconsistencies in planting those seeds, you're going to have inconsistencies in your harvest, right? And so let's talk about the seed itself. Every seed has potential, but it requires the right environment. It requires the right environment. And how do you know what environment is conducive to the seed's growth when you're not putting yourself in the right environment? See, I understood that in order for me to get off those jobs, I understood in order for to get off that street corner. Yeah, I was a corner boy. Yeah. So sometimes my vernacular represents where I come from, but I know how to put the suit on. I know how to put the tie on when I do wear one. I know how to stand on stage and talk to thousands of people, right? But I can still go back home to the projects and be relatable. I didn't have to change who I am to become somebody different. I just had to allow room for growth. I had to put myself in different environments in order to get out of the environment that I was in order to get out of the projects, in order to get out of the hood, in order to get off that corner, in order to stop taking those penitentiary chances in between jobs because I just wanted a better lifestyle. I had to take myself out of the environment, right? That was a sacrifice. I was accustomed to the lifestyle that fast money, but I couldn't do both. I had to make a sacrifice, right? I had to put myself in the right environment. How can I plant a seed in the right environment and expect a harvest while I won't even put myself in the right environment? When I don't show up to the AM power calls, but I feel like I want to pour into somebody, I'm going to pour into somebody else. I'm going to lead people. I'm going to show people how to be financially independent. People are going to follow me. People ain't going to follow you nowhere if they don't believe that you can take them somewhere. And if you don't put yourself in the right environments to grow, your business is not going to grow. Every seed has potential, right? I was a seed. I had to put myself in the right soil, right? And then I understood that you can't consume the seed and expect a harvest. You can't consume the seed, right? And expect a harvest. And so, and let me tell you what I mean by that, guys. Eating your seed is when you waste your opportunities, times, and gifts, right? Well, I want to win right now. I want to recruit right now. But I won't jump on a training when David is talking about how to recruit and how to put somebody in the system and how to create duplication. And there I go, consuming the seed, right? And so the thing about it is, don't consume what's meant to produce more. Don't waste the opportunities, right? Don't waste the opportunity to put yourself in the right environment. Don't waste the opportunities to be in front of people. You know, everybody that comes to Vital Fest is not a top earner. Everybody that comes to Vital Fest is not a top producer. Everybody that comes to Vital Fest is not a top retailer. Everybody that comes to Vital Fest is not making six figures and seven figures. But I guarantee you, everybody that's doing those things are going to be there. I promise you that, right? I promise you that David and Brooke are going to be at Vital Fest. I promise you that Adriel is going to be at Vital Fest. I promise you Jesse's going to be there, right? I promise you that all the leaders that you see that are winning in this company are going to be there. And that's what I understood, right? I understood, man, I got to make the sacrifice to be there. If I don't make the sacrifice to be there, then I'm going to be stuck here. And that sacrifice, right? I know what that led to. It led to a long-term lack of freedom, and I wanted to be free, right? Right. And so when I look at my about to be 50-year-old self, I thank my 20-year-old self for staying in that room with 7 people, for eating that 99-cent Whopper. I remember Whoppers was 99 cents, right? Like $3 now, right? We shouldn't be eating Whoppers anyway. Brooke, we're not eating Whoppers. I'm just doing a price comparison. But but I remember those 99-cent Whoppers. I remember finding the door that I could sneak in to be into the event. I remember those sacrifices. And now when I look back, I thank myself, right? I thank myself because, man, the harvest is plentiful. The harvest is plentiful. But I remember when it wasn't plentiful, right? And so don't consume what's meant to produce. Don't waste those opportunities to grow, right? And so it's the sowing season. There's a time to sow and don't miss it. This is the time to sow. Right? This is the perfect opportunity. So, do you know that you can still go outside right now in your neighborhood and talk to 10 people about vital health? And 9 times out of 10, 99.9% of those people haven't heard of it. That's the time to sow, right? That's the time to sow. Do you know that we're going from $100 million company to a $200 million company? One day, a $500 million company, one day, $1 billion company. This is the time to sow those seeds. Right? Do you know we got countries that are waiting to get involved, that are waiting to push the button? This is the time to sow, right? This is not the time to complain about transitions. This is not the time to complain because things are changing. Change is inevitable, right? More money, more problems. New levels, different devils. The problems don't go nowhere. Right? Jim Rome said, don't ask that it be easier, ask that you get better. This is the time to get better. This is the time. This is not the time to miss AM power calls. This is not the time to miss events. This is not the time not to be on opportunity Zooms, learning how to present the opportunity, learning about the products when they do the product calls. Right? This is not the time for that. Those, said this is the time to plant those seeds. This is the time that you should be sowing. And I'm gonna tell you, sowing takes faith. You plant without seeing immediate results. There's no guarantee that the seed is going to grow. There's no guarantee that it's going to blossom. There's no guarantee, right, that the harvest is going to come from that seed. There's no guarantee. But what I can guarantee, if you don't plant the seed, don't expect no harvest. That's what I can tell you. If you don't show up for the amp power, don't expect growth. If you don't come to Vital Fest, don't expect to be like the people that you say you want to be like, right? Don't expect, don't expect results from the work that you didn't do. Don't expect harvest from the seeds that wasn't planted. It doesn't work like that. No seeds, no harvest, right? But guys, understand when you plant those seeds, the roots are forming before the fruit appears. That's how it works, right? That's how it works. Eric E had no idea before he got in the business at talking to Mr. Abby Akiola. He had no idea that he was going to come in 22 months later. Right? He had no idea that thousands of people in the continent of Africa would be waiting to get involved in his business when the button is pushed. What does that harvest look like? That's he was playing 22 months ago. I hope that you get it. I hope that you understand, right? I hope that you get the words that are coming out of my mouth, guys. But then it's reaping season, right? This is the season that everybody wants to skip to. Everybody wants to reap a harvest from seeds that were never planted. All right. And so there's a time to reap, but you can't reap and sow in the same season. You can't reap and sow in the same season. Reaping requires readiness, labor, and gratitude. It's a story I love. I tell this story all the time, right? And it's a parable in the good book where the children of Israel was complaining about rain, right? They're complaining about rain, and they were asking Moses, we've done everything you told us to do. We've prayed, right, for the rain, right? We did everything that we were supposed to do, and it still hasn't rained. They started to lack faith. They started to lack faith. They started to lack belief. They started to feel like they was sold a bill of goods, right? And it was like, it's no rain, and it's not going to rain. And Moses looked at him. He said, "Where are the ditches?" And they looked at him crazy, like, the ditches. He said, "Yeah, where are the ditches? Where are the ditches?" And they looked at him crazy. He said, "If you believed it was going to rain, you would have dug the ditches. If you believed it was going to rain, you would have dug the ditches." A lot of times we want the harvest, but we don't prepare for it. The harvest is there, but we don't prepare for it, right? We don't show up. We don't do the work prior to what we want to manifest. We just expect the manifestation without putting the work. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. I read the books. I listened to the audios. I put the 10,000 hours in. I showed up when the money wasn't coming. I, I showed up when nobody was getting in my business. I showed up when people laughed at me and told me I was crazy. Right? I've worked 2 years without an off day. I put the work in because I worked with expectations that the harvest would come if I did the work. Right? And so don't grow weary, guys. Reaping often comes after long seasons of silence. Eric Eve, am I right about that? Right? But guys, I heard one time when a tree falls in the forest, just because you wasn't there to hear the sound doesn't mean it didn't fall. Right? A lot of things are happening. A lot of people are winning. A lot of people are succeeding. A lot of people are hitting diamond and double diamond and triple diamond. Countries are opening. People are doing scans. Right? People are making noise. People are out there getting it done. People out there putting in the work. And just because you're not around, just because you're not plugged in, just because you're not showing up, doesn't mean it's not happening. Right? It doesn't mean it's not happening. And so, just some key takeaways as we bring this thing to a close, man. And I appreciate you for spending this 40 minutes with me. But you control planning, not growing. That's God's department. All right. Sowing and reaping are seasonal, not simultaneous. And the time you plant the seed is not the time you eat the fruit. Prepare for harvest even before it comes. Act in expectation. Operate with an abundance mindset before the abundance appears. Right? That's where the belief comes in at. You say you believe, but believe is an action word. Actions come before belief. Belief doesn't come after the actions. Right? The actions come first. And the reason the actions come first because you believe it's going to happen. If you believe it's going to happen, you do the work before it shows up. Because I know at the shadow of a doubt, I know that eventually I'm going to show up and I'm going to hear something to change my business. I'm going to show up to the Zoom because I know eventually somebody's going to say something that changes the pace of my business. I'm going to keep planting the seeds because I know eventually, right, something's going to come out of that. Right? I'm going to keep the relationship open with Keith Williams because I never know one day when he's going to come into my business. Prepare for the harvest even before it comes. Right? Expect it to come. Know in your heart that it's going to come. Right? Start building the ark before the first raindrop hits, even if it hasn't rained in 40 years. And you're out there building that ark because you know the rain is coming. Right? Because when the rain comes and the flood hits and everybody else is trying to get in, they wasn't preparing because a lot of times people don't believe stuff until it happens. But people that make stuff happen believe it before it happens. That's why they become great. Right? Nobody was Michael Jordan when he was shooting in the gym at 3 o'clock in the morning. You just thought that he was just amazing on the basketball court and he was just born like that. Doesn't happen like that. greatness comes with sacrifice. All right. And so stay consistent. What you sow today will bless your tomorrow. I promise you. I promise you. Man, my 50-year-old self is thankful for the seeds, right? And one day you want to go back and you want to thank your past self for making the right decisions and planting those seeds. Because when a harvest comes, right? When a harvest comes, guys, you're going to wonder where that harvest was in the lean times. Because it's going to be so plentiful and so abundant that you're going to be like, man, where was this when I was struggling? Where was this when I was behind on my rent? Where was this when they was repoing that car? Where was this when I had 2 kids and I was riding my sister's bike to that gas station as a grown man living with my mama? Now I pay my mama bills because I was still showing up. I was still putting in the work. I still was believing, right? Even when it looked like it was hopeless. Even when people was laughing at me because I was riding that bicycle. And it was a purple and silver Schwinn too. Can you imagine? Right? Can you imagine looking at your daughter, looking at your son and saying, I'll be back, I gotta go to work, and then you jump on your sister's bicycle and drive to the gas station, right? Because it was the closest place I can work at that I didn't need a car. Yeah, I lived that. All right. But that's all I have, man. I don't want to get emotional. But plant the seeds. Plant the seeds, right? Adrian, I appreciate you for letting me share, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn it back over to you. Thank you so much,
He
guys. And
really
thank you all
said,
for coming.
"That's all I have," after he just gave us this 40 minutes of amazingness. That is so silly. Real fast, Sabrina, I'm gonna need you to bring that cat into the picture so that I can see your cat because I saw you kissing it, and now I need to see the cat. But let's give some love to Keith. He really took us to church today. He reminded us that we are not a participation trophy kind of people. You cannot expect to get something for nothing. You just show up and get your trophy without doing anything. That's not how this works. So thank you, sir, for giving us all of that. Look at the kitty. Look at the kitty, guys. Oh, look at the little kitty. All right. Thank you for Sabrina. All right. We'll go out, sow some seeds today. Don't get mad that they don't turn into plants overnight, and make sure you keep watering where your grass is. Okay. Love it. Give some shout outs to Keith. We'll open the lines up so you can tell him to his face.
Come
Thank you,
on,
Thank you,
Keith.
Keith.
Thank you,
Keith.
Keith.
Thank
That
Thank
was
you.
you.
You take
amazing.
care.
Thank
Thank
you
you
Keith.
so
so
much,
much.
Keith.
Thank
Come
you.
on.
Happy
Yes.
day.
Happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday
Amazing
and
yourself.
Eric. Happy
have
birthday.
an
And
awesome,
Absolutely
amazing
fantastic.
fall.
keep
Guys,
working each
Thank
and
you.
every
Thank
Thank
you.
day,
it's
Blessings.
gonna be
and
great.
your future will
Super,
be
Thank
super
through
you.
your
excited.
faith, your
Wonderful.
work.
Happy
Crushed it.
birthday.
Crushed
Choice
it.
make a
Take
difference.
care.
Crushed it.
See you in
Happy
Florida.
birthday, everybody. Happy
See y'all in
birthday to
Mama
you
Dallas.
Donna.
guys.
What a blessing.
Have
What a
a
blessing
blessed
to be
day,
here.
everybody. Mama Donna.
Everybody is 28 years young all over again.
I'll take
Mhm.
it.
Yes,
Yeah. Carlos got me
yes.
feeling like I'm 28.
I don't want
Right,
to be in
that's
my
it.
20s ever again. That was a disaster.
I don't want to live. I don't want to
Yeah.
relive those days.
All
Awesome
right.
training.
Y'all have a
Love
Thank
good
you.
one.
y'all.
Awesome. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Don't forget to get on to the Wellness Wednesday call tonight. If you have anyone interested in what the products do, Dr. Karen Rizzo is going to be talking about the scanner, why it's useful, and how to use that in your practice with people as well. I mean, she's a chiropractor, she is a doctor, so she's full of knowledge. I'm excited to hear her speak tonight. We'll see you guys on the next call. Have a good day, y'all.
Thank
Bye.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.